Hi, Polaris friends. You're not here right now, but I do have Mr. Gatorade here, and he is here to show you all the cool things about bird research. So take it away, Mr. Gatorade.
Sure. Hi, everybody. Maybe you remember me from when I came and played guitar for you there a while ago now. Miss Marina asked me to come and talk to you a little bit about birds because I love birds, and I have been watching birds and researching birds since I was about your age. I was 6 years old when I got started, and I got started with this bird right here. Obviously, this isn't a real bird, but this is the official Audubon Society bird. They used to make these, I think they still do, and they make calls. Unfortunately, the battery in this particular collar has gone dead, but that's all right. The point is that this is an ivory-billed woodpecker, which I don't know, maybe you can read the tag. It's probably reversed. That's all right. And the ivory-billed woodpecker was my spark bird, is what we call it. The bird that sparks an interest in learning more about birds. And so when I was in the first grade, I had to do an assignment where I had to write a little paper about some facts on an endangered or an extinct animal. And this particular animal that I picked, obviously, was the ivory-billed woodpecker. And so after I learned a little bit about it, I was really kind of interested in what other birds were out there. And so I would start taking a look at different birds in my backyard. And then eventually, when I hit about fourth grade, they actually rediscovered this bird. So they found one of these alive in the state of Arkansas. And it was this huge thing. Actually, that's why this one was made. The little tag says that this was made for the rediscovered ivory-billed woodpecker, February 2004. And after that, I started carrying around a massive encyclopedia of North American birds. So in my school, I had to carry all of these books, very heavy textbooks, from class to class. And I decided that on top of all of those heavy textbooks, I also needed the Encyclopedia of North American Birds. And I just read through that as much as I could. But obviously, I don't expect any of you to have the giant North American Encyclopedia of Birds. And that's why I have some different ways that you can start learning a little bit about birds without having to do too terribly much. So to start, I would encourage you to spend even just a couple of minutes a day in your backyards or in some sort of outdoor space if you can. I know that's a little tough right now. Even just looking out your window, though, if you happen to have a tree within view, is a great way to start learning a little bit about birds. Now, it's a little tricky because you do live in a big city, but even the common birds in the big city can be really fun to start studying. So for you guys, you're probably going to end up seeing things like pigeons. You all know, I'm sure you all know what a pigeon looks like. They're those funny things that walk around like that. They're great. So you got things like pigeons, you got robins, you've got sparrows, all right? And even though they're not maybe like the really cool large birds like my friend Thomas the red-tailed hawk here, but even the ones that aren't super rare or super colorful or neat to look at are super important to learn from because we can start taking a look at things like behavior. How does that bird act? How does it act when you're outside and you're walking towards it? How does it act when you're just watching it from your window or maybe from a good distance away? Keeping an eye on what they do when you are near them or when other people are walking towards them, anything like that, is a really good way to gather information on what a day in the life of that bird might be. Another great thing that you can do from your home is listen to birds. Listening to bird calls is, good grief. I'm much older now than I was when I started watching birds, and I still don't know all of the bird calls. I don't think I ever will, but I can point out a very large number of them because I just sit and listen to them at times. So for example, I'm going to use my friend here. It's another one of my birds that still works. And we may get a guest appearance from my cat because he likes to chase these when I play them. This is a tufted titmouse. It's a pretty common woodland bird in a lot of North America. And it's got a very good call for learning, for beginners like yourselves, right? The trick to learning bird calls is to listen and to put words to them. So for example, this bird says the name Peter, 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 all the time. Just repeat it. It's almost like that silly video of the gopher going, Alan, Alan, Alan. If you've ever seen that, you probably haven't. Don't worry about it. The point is, have a listen here. Peter, 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 Peter. All right. So even just taking some time to go out, and just because maybe you don't hear it the way that professionals tell you to hear it, doesn't mean that your way of remembering it is wrong. For example, some people think that the black-capped chickadee, which is pretty common, some people refer to one of its calls as being a Phoebe call because they think it says Phoebe, whereas other people think that it's saying cheeseburger. So there's some variation. What matters is how you memorize it. The other thing that you can do while you're taking a look around is take a note of the different color patterns that they have. So this is my friend the wood duck. And this is the boy wood duck because of the way that it is so colorfully created there, the way that its feathers look. What's really kind of interesting about a lot of birds, and maybe you can find this even in your own backyards, is that a lot of the boy birds have these very, very, very bright colors where the girl birds don't look quite as colorful. And that's okay, because the reasoning for that is pretty great. The boys have to look all flashy because they've got to drive the predators away. They've got to take all attention that a predator might be giving to maybe a nest full of the baby birds, and they've got to just drive that predator out of there. And if they're nice and bright and they stand out like this wood duck does, then the predators are going to be like, that's an easy meal. I can follow that, no problem. Even my cat is currently eyeing up this wood duck, all right? And they can keep their babies safe then. The girl bird then is usually a mixture of like browns and beiges, maybe some grays, and that is so she blends in perfectly well with her surroundings, and that way she doesn't give away where the nest is and keeps the babies nice and safe and warm because she's not getting scared away then. So it's actually super cool behavior. Do you see how these kind of all tie into each other? It's this huge web, I promise you. Once you start, you won't be able to stop. I got two more things for you, just real quick. Another cool thing that you can start to look at while you're looking at bird behavior, I'm going to use my friend here. I mentioned him earlier. This is Thomas, the red-tailed hawk. I've had him since I was, probably younger than you guys, actually. Another cool thing that you can do while you're watching these birds is take a look at their different body parts. How is the coloring on the underside of the wing versus the top of the wing? What do their feet look like? If you take a look at Thomas's, I know this doesn't look super menacing because he's a stuffed animal, but on a real red-tailed hawk, these toes would be very sharp, very, very sharp. And this beak would also be incredibly pointy as well. And that's because red-tailed hawks are birds of prey, which means that they eat meat. And so they need really, really, really sharp talons, or what we would call things on the end of their feet, kind of like their nails. And they need very sharp hook beaks because they don't have forks and knives. Those are the equivalent of their forks and knives when it comes to eating their food. So you can take a look just even while you're hanging out in downtown Chicago. All right, I see a pigeon, That pigeon's got a pretty dull beak. I wonder what that short little beak would be good for eating. These are great questions to ask yourself. Now, for this last one, yeah, good bit of luck involved in this, but maybe, just maybe, towards the end of the summer, you walk out and you happen to find yourself a nest, right? A nest that has blown down from a tree maybe, and you think to yourself, I want to know what kind of bird made that nest. So I have a couple examples here. These are old nests that were gifted to me. And we'll start with this one. Something that's super cool about looking at nests is honestly not even trying to figure out which bird was in it, but taking a look and appreciating the work that went into building this nest. So in this case, I'm not so sure how well it's showing up here, but if you take a look at this nest is a good mixture of things like blades of grass. There's some spider webbing mixed into this. We have some leaves. I see some straw. Actually, I see, if you take a look with me on that side there, I think there's a couple pieces of like a torn, it almost looks like a torn apart straw hat. And it's all been weaved together. Something else then too is where does the bird make its nest? Because this is also very important. So for example, I don't know how well you can see this. This bird made its nest in the Y of two sticks. Well, of a branch, excuse me. So if I hold that like that, you can see there's this thin branch over here and then kind of this thicker one on this side. And it built its little cup right down in between the two of those. The more that you research birds, the more that you learn that there's only a few birds that do that specifically. And so that can help you to learn what species of birds make nests in that manner. My last nest, honestly, I have to pick the whole container up for you because it's very large. And I'm gonna try and flip my camera here as well. So Marina, tell me if that doesn't go well. I think it will. There we go.
Yeah, it looks good, Mr. Gatorade. Keep going.
Wonderful, thanks. This nest was gifted to me from some folks that I know from back home here in Pennsylvania. As you can see, there are eggs in it. Now, the eggs had been abandoned, so I just want to clarify that they did not go out and scare away the bird and steal this nest. This nest something had scared the bird away, unfortunately, and this nest, these eggs didn't hatch. But that's okay, because now we can take a look and see, well, some clues as to what was in this nest. So ignoring the eggs for just a minute, let's take a look again at what makes up the nest. In this case, we've got a lot of different components. This down in here is actually some dried moss that has dried out a long time ago. I've had this for a very long time. And take a look at this right here. That's actually a strip of plastic. That's a strip of ribbon, if I pull it out there so you can see it. All right. So you can take a look and see how impacted by humans are the birds in your area. Are they making their nests out of pieces of trash? Because they'll do that. And while, you know, we'd prefer to see nests that don't have trash in them, it is still absolutely amazing how that bird managed to weave that into its nest. We see here then too, there's a lot of mud, a lot of caked mud, a lot of grass and straw in here as well. The other fantastic thing about this nest is, if I recall correctly, they gave me this because it fell out of their drain spout. A bird built this in the rain spout that comes off of their house. So you got to be pretty crazy bird-wise to build in such a silly location. But that, whichever bird built this really went to quite a length to make sure that it stuck. If we take a look at the eggs, because I know you've probably got some questions about the eggs, we can see a difference here. I did some research this morning because I forgot that these eggs were in here. And it looks like this nest was potentially parasitized, which means there was a parasite, so to speak. And that parasite was actually another bird. You see, one of these eggs is not like the other four. And that's because, believe it or not, there are some birds that will sneak one of their eggs into a different nest. The mama birds won't notice. And then these eggs will hatch. Mama will feed all of them as best she can. And then this bird that hatches out of here basically just gets free room and board, free food, free place to live, free place to grow up. And the mama bird doesn't normally notice until it's ready to hop out of the nest. And then she's kind of like, hey, wait a minute. And it says, bye-bye, and it flies off. So nests would be my last kind of recommendation for things to look at. Now, I want to leave you with some resources. I'm going to turn it back on myself here. Hello. Some resources that I would recommend. I know in this day and age, right, we want to go run to the computer and take a look at the computer. But everything that I just told you, you don't need a computer for until, necessarily you want to really look into what bird is singing or what bird does what if you can't identify it. I do, however, have some apps that I would recommend, because I'm sure a lot of you, or maybe mom, dad, grandma, guardian, whoever, have like a phone or an iPad or something. And these apps are free to download, and they're really easy to use. And that app that I would recommend to you is called Merlin, Merlin, Bird ID. And it's by the Cornell Laboratory. Cornell Laboratory was responsible for rediscovering this bird from earlier, the ivory bill. They are like, the bird masters. And they have an app that you download it for free. You go in, and then it will ask you to download a bird pack. Again, totally free. And the bird pack that you're going to want is the Midwest, because you live in the Midwest. And after that downloads in the app, you can use it to just scroll through. You can see the birds. You can read little details about them. You can, they have maps, so you can learn how to read a map that shows what times of year they're going to be in your area. But most importantly, they have a lot of wonderful pictures that have been taken, so you can see the differences in the different birds. And they have all of the sounds, so you can listen to the sounds and start to memorize them yourselves. So, in conclusion, birds are super great. And I know maybe it sounds like a ton of work, but really, it's a lot of fun. You just need a couple of minutes a day to sit and listen and say, hey, that bird's saying Peter over and over again. I know what that is. So there you go. I hope you enjoy, and happy birding.
Thanks, Mr. Gatorade. That was amazing.
There's my cat saying hi as well.
Thank you so much, Mr. Gatorade. Thank you for your expertise. And my friends are going to be so excited to see this. So thank you.
Wonderful. Glad to hear it.